In today's video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Daddy-O scarf. This scarf is pretty easy to do. It just uses a combination of single crochet and then a modified front post double treble crochet. And that's what creates this decorative edge here. Now we modify it because I'm not a big fan of the gaps that front post work leaves. So that leaves it on the back of the work. So I've modified it so that when you turn the scarf, you don't have those gaps. It just lays nice and flat. It's nice and clean. Now, the scarf is worked lengthwise, so you just chain a bunch of chains and then you only work it until it's about 5.5 inches across, and then we add the border. So it's pretty simple to do. The name Daddy-O came from inspiration from my stepfather. So I don't call him Dad or Stepdad or by his name. Instead, I call him Daddy-O because that just fits my name for him. So don't tell anybody, but I think this is probably going to be one of his Christmas gifts this year. But yeah, so before we begin, please remember to like and subscribe, and then we'll go over the materials list. For the Daddy-O scarf, I used the Lion brand yarn Heartland. This is a wonderful yarn for this project because I like the heathering that is in the colors, and it's nice and thick, so it helps us to work up pretty quickly. Now I used just under 2 balls for this scarf, and this is what I had left from my second ball. So I'm going to use this for the demonstration because I'm just going to make a small swatch so that way you can see the techniques used. So you'll need 2 balls of this, or about 483 yards or 442 meters in any other worsted weight yarn. Now this is in the color Glacier Bay, and the Heartland line has just wonderful colors just in general. I'm a huge fan of them. But this yarn holds 251 yards or 230 meters. So it's a nice generous yardage here. You're also going to need some scissors. You'll need a lockable stitch marker, a tapestry needle for sewing in your ends, and then you'll also need a crochet hook. Now I use the Furls Resin Streamline. This is one of their Galaxy series, I believe. It's in the US size K or 6.5 millimeter. Now if you want to get your hands on one of these hooks, I will have an affiliate link down below. Same with the yarn as well, because I'm also an affiliate for Lion brand. So grab your hook, grab some yarn, and let's get started. The scarf begins with a chain of 213, but because I'm just doing a small swatch for you to show you the techniques, I'm going to begin by chaining 21. But if you are working this scarf with me, go ahead and chain 213. After you've done your chain, we're going to begin by doing some single crochets. So from the second chain from the hook, so 1, 2, we're going to work a single crochet. And then we're going to single crochet in each chain across. So if you did the full size chain for the scarf, you'll end up with 212 single crochets. Okay, so I just finished my last single crochet. Now we are going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn. Now we're going to be using our lockable stitch marker here on this row. So what we're going to do is do 1 single crochet in each of the first 2 single crochets. So in this first stitch, because that chain 1 will not count as a stitch, so in this very first one, work 1 single crochet, and then in the next one, work a single crochet. Now we are going to use our stitch marker, and we're going to place it around the stitch that we just made. So we're going to place it around that stitch because we're going to be coming back to this here in just a little bit. So have that little guy in place, and then we're going to single crochet in each stitch across. Coming up to the end of row 2, I have that last single crochet to make. And then for row 3, we're just going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. And then just single crochet in each stitch across. And I'll meet you at the end of row 3 so that we can start row 4. That's when things start getting really interesting. I've finished that third row of single crochets. So now for row 4, we're going to begin by chaining 1, and then we'll turn. And now we should have that stitch marker facing us. So how we're going to begin this is by doing a single crochet in each of the first 6 single crochets. So in that first stitch, there's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now what we're going to do is work our modified front post double treble. And how we're going to do that is we're going to work around the post of this stitch right here. And all of the modified front post double trebles that we do are going to be worked on this row. So we're working 2 rows below where we currently are. So let me show you how that's done. So the modified front post double treble means we're going to wrap our yarn around our hook 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to insert our hook around this stitch here that's indicated by that stitch marker. So we're inserting it from front to back around that post. Then we're going to draw up a loop, and we're going to yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. When we have 2 loops left, instead of yarning over and drawing through those 2, we are going to insert our hook into the next stitch, the one that would normally be skipped if you're doing front post work. So the very next stitch, we're going to insert our hook, and we're going to draw up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3. And that is what gives you that post, but also closes up that gap in the back. So now that we've done that, we're going to remove this marker. And then we're going to begin our pattern repeat. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet in one, and single crochet in the next. Then we're going to skip the next 2 single crochet that are 2 rows below where our post was made. And we're going to work a modified front post double treble around the next post. So here, this post was made around this stitch, so we're going to skip 1, we're going to skip 2, and we're going to work our next modified front post double treble around this post. So I'll walk you through that once more. So we're going to yarn over 3 times and insert our hook around the post of that stitch that is the 3rd stitch from that post. So 1, 2, that 3rd one, we'll work by inserting our hook front to back around that post. And then we're going to draw up a loop, and we'll yarn over and draw through 2 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. With those 2 loops on the hook, we will insert our hook into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. So let's do that repeat one more time. We're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then we're going to work that modified front post double treble in the 3rd stitch from that post. So 1, 2, 3. So right here is where we're going to be working that modified front post treble. So yarn over 3 times, insert your hook front to back around that post, drop a loop, and yarn over and draw through 2 3 times. Then, with those 2 loops on the hook, insert your hook into that next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over and draw through all 3. So that repeat once more is 2 single crochet in each of the next 2. And then we'll work that modified front post double treble. So we're just going to skip 2, so 1, 2, and that, remember we're working 2 rows below, and we're going to work this stitch right there. So yarn over 3 times, insert that hook around that post, front to back around it, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through 2 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then insert your hook in the next stitch, drop a loop, then yarn over and draw through all 3. And then we're going to do our final repeat when we get towards the end. So work 2 more single crochets. Then we are going to work that modified front post double treble. So 2 rows below, skipping 2 single crochets from where that post is. So 1, 2, right around this guy right here. We'll yarn over 3 times, insert our hook from front to back, drop a loop, we'll yarn over, draw through 2 3 times, and then in that next stitch, insert your hook, drop a loop, then yarn over and draw through all 3. And when you come up to your very last single crochet, all you do is work a single crochet. So that's what your row 4 should look like. And obviously if you're doing the full-size scarf, it'll be much longer. But no, they're pretty neat little guys. And then when you flip it over, you see that you don't have the gaps that you would normally have with front post work. So for row 5, what we're going to do is chain 1 and turn our work. And then we're going to single crochet in each stitch across. But I want to show you a little trick. So let's do this first single crochet. And you'll be able to see on the back side where you work those modified front post double trebles, because you end up with a larger gap. And that's just kind of a natural thing when you're working with that many loops. So to close that gap, I will work a single crochet and the loop that is just under it. So here I can show you. So you have your stitch right here that you would normally work. Well, I also work beneath this one right here. That way it helps to close it up. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to insert my hook underneath all 3 of those strands. And I'll work that single crochet. And then the next 2 that were normal single crochets. And then when you come back up to that modified front post treble, again, you can totally tell. It's a subtle difference, but to the trained eye, you can see it pretty easily. And just insert your hook under that 3rd strand and do single crochet as you normally would. So just single crochet all the way across, and I will meet you for row 6. For row 6, we'll begin by chaining 1, and then we'll turn our work. So now you should have your right side facing you, and we're going to be working the modified front post double trebles again, but it's going to be a lot easier on this row. So we're going to work a single crochet in the first single crochet. Now we're going to work our modified front post double treble around the first front post double treble that we have here. So it's the one that's 2 rows below. So we're just going to work around that post. We don't have to go around any stitches or anything, or any single crochet stitches. We're working around a very easy to spot post. So yarn over 3 times. Just insert your hook from front to back around that post. Drop a loop, yarn over and draw through 2 3 times. Whoops. And then before you finish it, you have this stitch right here where we're going to insert our hook. So I'm going to turn this just a little bit so you can see it better. We'll insert our hook into that stitch, drop a loop, then we'll yarn over and draw through all 3. So that's how we're going to work our modified front post trebles on this one. And what I'll do is after I work a few of them, I'll kind of give it a little scoot so that this post meets more where the top of this one is. and that's what creates that V pattern. So after you've done that, you're going to work a single crochet in each of the next 2, and this begins our pattern repeat. So 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. Then you're going to work that modified front post double treble around that post 2 rows below, so around the next one. So it's way over here, and it feels like you're stretching a bit, but that's why that long post works so well. So yarn over 3 times, insert your hook around that post from front to back, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2 3 times, and then insert your hook into that next stitch, which is right here. And that's where you're going to finish this stitch up. So draw up a loop, and yarn over and draw through 3. And that's your pattern repeat. So we'll do that again. 1 single crochet in each of the next 2. And then a modified front post double treble around the next post, which is right here. So yarn over 3 times, insert it from front to back around that post, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. And then we're going to insert our hook into that next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. So you'll just continue doing that down until you get to the last 6 single crochets. And I'll meet you when I get to this point. I'm at the last of my modified double treble, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single crochets left, which works out perfectly because I just worked around my last post. So we're going to just single crochet in those next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Before I start the next row, I'm going to remove my hook. I'm just going to tidy these guys up a little bit. So I'm just going to snug them up. And they go pretty easily. There we go. And that gives you just that nice V pattern. Now for row 7, we're going to repeat row 5. And that's where we just do a chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to single crochet across. So I'm going to do a single crochet in these first 6, and then I should be coming up to my first modified front post treble. And then I'll show you again how to close up that gap so you don't have that hole. Okay, here we are. And so I'm going to, just for demonstration purposes, show you what it looks like if you just do a regular single crochet. And then I'll just do 2 more. Now see, if you open it, even from the back side, you can see that there's a bigger gap there. But then from the front side, you see that there's a pretty large gap. So that's where it's helpful to grab some of this guy down here when you do that single crochet. So I'll show you. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm just grabbing that 3rd strand, which is right down here, just to close that up a bit, and then just working the regular single crochets. So grabbing that 3rd strand and just single crochet across. For row 8, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to single crochet all the way across. For row 9, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and you're just going to single crochet all the way across. And you're going to continue doing that, just repeating that row until your entire piece measures 4 inches. From the very beginning. So from the very beginning all the way up until it measures about 4 inches, you're just going to work single crochet rows. So I'll show you here on the scarf. So see what we have here. Apparently I have this upside down. Let me flip it so I can show you. So this is what we have. And if you lay it up against this, you're going to do what looks like probably about 6 more rows. When you finish doing your repeats, you want to make sure that you end by completing a wrong side row. So you want to make sure that you finish one of these sides before we begin the next one. And if you're a little bit off and you end up doing, say 3 7/8 inches instead of 4 inches, or if you're just over 4 inches, it's really not a big deal. It's quite okay. So go ahead and work until your entire piece measures 4 inches, and then I'll meet you back for the next step. So I finished my single crochet repeat rows, and it did end up being about 6 rows. Now we're ready to begin the next step. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work, and now our right side will be facing. And what we're going to do is essentially just repeat what we did here. So we're going to single crochet in the first 2 single crochets. So 1, 2, and then we're going to place a stitch marker around the single crochet that we just made. And I went ahead and swapped out for a brighter stitch marker so I can see it a little bit better against this blue. So I'm placing the stitch marker around that because that's going to indicate where we're going to be creating our modified front post double trebles when we get to that point. So now all you do is just single crochet across, and I will meet you for the next row. I finished with my single crochet across. Now all we're going to do is chain 1, turn, and then we're going to single crochet across 1 more time. And then I'll meet you at the very end of this row so that we can then begin this section 1 more time. Now that I've finished that last row of single crochet, what we're going to do is chain 1 and turn. And then we are going to repeat rows 4 through 8 1 more time. And that was the rows that created this edging here. So I'm just going to walk you through it quickly. That way I can get on to showing you how to do the edging and then the border. So we're going to begin by single crocheting in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to work that modified front post double treble where that stitch marker is located. So around that post. So we'll yarn over 3 times and insert it around that post. Front to back, drawn up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, 3 times. Now instead of finishing out that stitch, we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. And you can remove your stitch marker here, or you can leave it on, because now we're going to begin the pattern repeat of 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then 1 modified front post treble 2 rows below the 3rd stitch over. So we're going to skip 2, and then in this 3rd stitch right here, that's where we're going to work our modified front post treble. So we'll yarn over 3 times, insert our hook front to back around that post, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, 3 times. And that's your pattern repeat on that row. So it should feel very familiar. So you're going to continue with that repeat of 2 single crochets and then 1 modified front post after you skip those 2, and you do it in that 3rd post. So continue that across until you get to the last single crochet, and you'll just single crochet in that very last stitch. And then I'll meet you for the next row. I'm coming up to the end where I'm doing that very last single crochet. And now we have our first row of our front post work. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to single crochet across. Just remember to help close those gaps by going a little bit deeper down into these front post ones. So grab that third strand and then work your single crochet. So single crochet across, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. Coming up to the end of this row, that last single crochet right there. Now we're going to chain one and turn our work, and we're back on the right side. Now this is a repeat of row 6, and this is where we're going to add that second leg to these guys. So we're going to do a single crochet in the first single crochet. Then we're going to work a modified front post double crochet around the post of the first one that we made. So just yarn over 3 times, insert it around that post, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through 2 3 times, and then remember to finish that stitch by doing the modification. So 2 loops on your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. And then we're going to begin our pattern repeat, and that is to work 2 single crochets. So 1, 2, and then that modified front post double treble around the next post. 1 2 3 yarn overs, insert that hook around that post, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through 2 3 times, and then insert your hook into that next stitch, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. So continue with this pattern repeat of 2 single crochets and then that modified front post treble around the next post until you get to 6 single crochets that remain, and then just single crochet across those last 6. And I'll meet you there. I'm doing my last modified front post double treble. And now I should have 6 single crochets left. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. Perfect. I love when things come out right. I'm just single crocheting in these last 6 stitches. And then before I go any further, I'm going to remove my hook and I'm going to tidy these guys up, because you see how on the bottom, how we have them nice and tidy? On the top, they haven't quite been rearranged yet. So I'm going to remove this stitch marker and then just tuck these guys up. And if you're doing the full-size scarf, I recommend doing this at least every 5 or 6, so that way you can go in, unless you enjoy sitting there, tidying them up too. It's whatever works. So for our next row, we are going to do our single crochets. So we're just going to chain 1, turn our work. We're going to do our single crochets, but the ones that will help close up that gap. So go ahead and single crochet across. I will meet you so that we can finish off these shorter edges of the scarf. Now we're ready to begin the edging that we're going to do on the short row of the scarf. So if you're doing it, if you're doing the full size, we're only working on the sides that are the short end edges. Now, if you made your scarf narrower or wider, you may have to adjust the number of stitches that we're going to put across here. But I'll walk you through how I have it set up. So we're going to make sure that the wrong side is facing us, and we are going to begin by chaining 1. Then we rotate the scarf so that we work with that short edge at the top, and we're going to evenly crochet 18 single crochets across. Now you may find for your scarf, if it's narrower, maybe 14 single crochets work, and if it's wider, maybe you go 20 or 22, but just so that it's nice and even. So I'm going to work 18. So 1, 2, and it's just really about finding where you feel like a stitch should go. 3, 9, and when I get to that halfway point, I like to take a look and see if I'm roughly at the halfway point of my scarf. And yes, that is looking good to me. So now we're going to do 9 more. So that's 10. Now after you have your 18 single crochets, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and you'll work 1 single crochet across those stitches. So I have 18, so I'm going to do 18 single crochets, and then I'm going to fasten off. All right, so I'm going to fasten off now. Now we're going to rotate the scarf to work on the other side, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So make sure to turn your scarf so that the right side or that the wrong side is facing you, or the back side. And we're going to join with a slip stitch into the corner. So I'm going to find my corner spot right here. Join with that slip stitch. Tighten that up. And chain 1. Then I'm going to work 18 single crochets across. And then I'll chain 1. And then work 18 single crochets across. Do not fasten off when you finish this row though, because then we're going to do the border around the entire scarf. I finished up that second row of single crochet on that shorter edge. And now all we're going to do is a slip stitch border around the scarf. So what you're going to do is, say this is how you finished. So we are going to rotate our scarf so that the long edge is what's facing you. And then we're going to chain 1 and then slip stitch across the edge. So you'll just work a slip stitch all the way around it. So just work a slip stitch in every stitch, and that'll create a great border. And then when you get to the corners, instead of doing just a slip stitch, because you don't want it to pucker up, you're going to do a slip stitch, chain 1, and slip stitch in the same stitch. And I'll get down here and I'll show you exactly what I mean. But this just creates a really nice border. So I'll meet you down at the corner here in just a moment. All right, we're coming up to our corner, and I'm going to show you how I do this slip stitch. Okay, that's the last one. All right, so we've got this little corner piece, and I'm in the very last stitch here. So, and this is more of a judgment call, so you have to determine where you think that corner fits best. But I think right here it's going to work for me. So I'm going to do a chain 1 and then another slip stitch in that same space. And then just work your slip stitch around. So easy peasy. And just here's a tip for you too, is just make sure when you're doing your slip stitches that you don't do them tight. You want to be nice and relaxed. That way they don't bunch up your scarf. And this is just a nice way to put just a nice finishing edge on it. But that is it. Now see, all right, so I'm going to actually go back because I don't like how that corner looks right there. So I'm going to work it 1 more stitch before I do the slip stitch. I'm just going to move on up here. And then I'm going to do a chain 1 and do the slip stitch in the same space. And then I'll work across. And that really is, like I said, it's a judgment call for you, because you might look back at it and be like, you know, what if I moved it up or down just a tiny bit? But that's it. So there's your corner. So that gives it a nice sharp corner too. And then when you're all done, you'll end by joining with a slip stitch into the top of that chain 1 when you first started your border. And then you just weave in your ends and block your scarf and enjoy it. So I do hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you later for more patterns and tutorials. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.